Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Deku Becomes a Pokemon Trainer. In this story, it is simply what you might expect. The story of My Hero Academia, but in world filled with not only quirks, but also Pokemon. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel, after watching this video. Before we get into it though, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Izuku's POV. Pass. After walking past the destroyed gate, the 5 of us kids walked deeper into the forest. Bakugo's 3 lackeys went on ahead, looking aimlessly for Pokemon. None here. Yubi called out. Just a bunch of useless frittatas. Keep searching. Bakugo called out. I know that there are supposed to be a huge amount of Pokemon here. How do you know? Yubi questioned. It's obvious, you idiots. Bakugo called out. I saw a couple of cool Pokemon wander in here. I would have captured them then if it wasn't for my hag of a mom. Wow. Tsubasa said. You are so cool, Koch-chan. Standing up to your parents like that. Of course, I am. Bakugo smirked arrogantly before raising his hand into the air. I'm me. He unleashed a big explosive blast into the air, startling a few Starlies and Pidgeys. There they go. Follow them. Perhaps one of those Pokemon has a cool leg move or is a shiny. The 3 kids run off after them, leaving Bakugo marching arrogantly with me and Eevee following behind him. Wow, you're so lucky. Your quirk is amazing, Koch-chan. I praised the kid. When I get mine, I hope it's just as cool. Whatever, Deku. Bakugo scoffed and looked back. No matter what power you may end up with, you'll never be able to defeat me. Bakugo turned back and ran off, leaving me behind. Wait up, Koch-chan. I said. Back then, I was a little hurt by what Bakugo said, and I knew Eevee was a little mad too. I mean, who wouldn't when their friend barely acknowledges and makes fun of you? I wanted to retort back, but back then I guess I didn't want to hurt his feelings. Or I was just scared that he would get mad and attack me. Wouldn't have been the first time. So instead I followed. Even if I knew that all the cooler, rare Pokemon were in fact west of us due to their migration and food sources, I followed, placing my trust in who I thought was my best friend, that I would find something cool. Suddenly, I stopped. I felt this weird feeling around me, as if something unordinary was near. The nagging feeling directed my gaze to my right, to see another path, hidden by a pair of large bushes. I brushed the bushes aside to see a small stream flowing from the right along the hidden path. My eyes widened to see something I never seen before. It was a Pokemon, but none that I had ever seen before. It was small, around Eevee's height, yet instead of walking around it was flying, floating and zipping around, all the while making a giggle of sorts. It was entirely pink, with 2 large blue eyes. Its head was feline-like, its snout wide and roundish, and its ears like triangles. It had 2 short arms, its small paws had 3 fingers, large hind paws with an oval marking on the back of its foot. It also had a tail, a really long thin one with the tip of it more ovalish and wide. I stared at it with wide, awe-filled eyes, engraving its flight and giggles in my head for years to come. It floated over to the stream and dipped its head slightly, licking the water, before it launches into the air, flying circles while laughing gleefully. It suddenly stopped and looked towards me, with me gasping in awe. I titled my head to the right to get a different angle of it, only for the mysterious Pokemon to tilt its head left, mimicking my movements. I leaned my head left, and the Pokemon mimed my movement again. I giggled, and the Pokemon giggled in delight at this unofficial game we were playing. Eevee poked his head through the bushes, wondering what I was seeing before gasping likewise, as it saw the pink Pokemon. Said Pokemon looked at Eevee before it suddenly glowed bright blue and suddenly transformed into another Eevee. We gasped in shock and see how the once pink Pokemon was giggling and running around like Eevee, with my own Eevee smiling before jumping through the bushes and running around with the Pokemon. Eevee crouched into a pouncing posture and jumped towards the clone Eevee, only for the clone Eevee to jump high into the air, Eevee missing completely, and it glowed bright blue before transforming back to normal, giggling at Eevee's failed attempt to catch him. I smiled wide and laughed joyfully, bringing the creature's attention back at me. It slowly floated towards me, its own eyes staring at me with curiosity. I reached out my hand slowly to touch it. But just before I made contact, hey Deku. I flinched and looked back to where Bakugo was, Eevee likewise sticking his head through the other side of the bushes, waiting a few meters away with the others. Hurry up, useless Deku, before we get your butt. Oh? But I found something. I called back as I turned back. Something. But as I looked back, the Pokemon was gone, vanished into thin air. Me and Eevee stood there in confusion, looking around for the pink creature, before Bakugo walked back towards me and shoved me away. Alright, what is it? Better not be something stupid. Bakugo grumbled before looking into the bushes and seeing the hidden path. Hey, look. A secret path. What do you know? Looks like you did something right after all, Deku. Come on guys, let's go. I shook off the shove, dismissing it as Koch-chan being Koch-chan, and quickly followed the group down the new path, all the while me and Eevee still looked for the mysterious Pokemon, never knowing that it was right beside us, invisible, and giggling silently. Third POV. Back in the present, Team A of Izuku and Uraraka and Team D of Bakugo and Iida stood facing All Might beside a large abandoned building as he announced the rules. Team D, you two can go on inside, All Might said. Once you are set up, you can release your selected Pokemon, same with the Team A outside. In 5 minutes, Team A will be let loose and the battle will begin. Yes, sir, the students said. As Bakugo and Iida were about to enter the building, All Might stopped them. Young Iida, young Bakugo, the key to being successful in this challenge is to embody villainy. Think from the perspective of any evildoer. If things go too far, I'll step in. Yes, sir, Iida said as he dramatically bowed. As All Might left to talk to Team A, he noticed Bakugo staring at Izuku, his teeth grounded together in a growling snarl. It wouldn't be too hard for you to act like a villain, All Might thought bitterly. Bakugo's hero costume consisted of a tight, sleeveless, black tank top that revealed his shoulders all the way up to the end of his biceps. The shirt formed a V-neck, an orange X was on the shirt, the top part of the X tracing over the V-neck, and it had 2 black dots on one of its lines. He wore a metallic brace around his neck and shoulders, the ends rectangular and with 3 holes on each side. He wore black baggy pants, a moss green belt with a few grenades and Pokeballs strapped in, that held up his pants and connected with metallic knee guards, and wore black and red-orange boots. His hands were covered in black gloves, with orange on the palm side, that rode up in black sleeves covered by large gauntlets that appeared like grenades, holes on the end of the gauntlets over his hands. Finally, his mask was black and jagged, trimmed with orange trimming the sides before spiking up outwards in flare-shaped protrusions, and it covered over his eyes, that seemed to embody pure animalistic rage. He spoke again with a final warning. And one more thing. A word of warning. All Might stared back at the Team D, especially Bakugo, his sky blue eye brightly shining through the shadows over them in a warning glare. Lethal force is not permitted. If I see anything that shows you would harm the other team fatally, I will pull the plug, and your team will fail. Iida shivered in fright before bowing low. Yes, sir. Bakugo just glared, inwardly struggling to hold back his displeasure, as well as hold back the quivering of his clenched, shaking hand. Inside, Iida and Bakugo walked through the halls of the building. Even though this is training, it pains me to be aligned with criminal behavior, Iida said, holding his removed helmet with one arm. They entered a large room, almost empty save for a few crates and boxes, and of course the weapon. The weapon was a large rocket, the coloring black with 3 painted lines of red, and 1 line of grey metal with black dots. It stood on 4 black legs, at its pointed top was an iron rod, and by its side a metal screen with a 15-minute countdown primed in. So, this is the weapon we must protect, Iida said as he tapped onto his metal hull a few times to receive hollow sounds. Fate, of course. As Iida was about to dig into his belt for his Pokeball, Bakugo shouted hey. Iida looked towards his partner who faced the door they came through. Do you really think Deku has a quirk? Iida hummed in confusion. You saw how he threw that ball. And his enhanced speed and strength, along with that green lightning that shot off of him. He even told me the name of the quirk, or force, as I recall. If you insinuate that he lied about it, then what other way could he do all those things if it wasn't for a quirk? Bakugo scoffed in anger. Iida frowned in though Midoriya did say that he and Bakugo were once childhood friends, but had a falling out years prior, presumably because of his supposed quirklessness. He placed a hand over his chin as though further. Midoriya was most likely bullied too, given the name that Midoriya claims Bakugo gave to him, and combined it with the word useless. And he said it so casually, if not a little sadly, as if it was said about him repeatedly. His eyes widened as his mind came up with a hypothesis that he wished to dismiss as soon as it came up. Could Bakugo have been one of those bullies? It would explain his aggressive and downright violent relationship with Midoriya, and the name. But no, UA is supposed to be the finest hero training institution in Japan. Surely they would have done background checks on all of us. They did so with that Mineta from before. I'm sure that they just had a falling out, how else would he be here? Surely UA wouldn't be so biased against powerful quirks as to let such a character like a bully into his prestigious halls. Iida looked back to Bakugo, who still had his back turned to him. Might as well ask. If I may ask, why is it that you seem especially angry when it comes to Midoriya? Iida asked. Bakugo remained silent, his clenched fist shaking. Was he seriously tricking me all these years? Bakugo thought furiously. Like some sort of sick joke. I heard that you and he were friends in childhood before you had a falling out of sorts, Iida said, as Bakugo froze. Is this true? Bakugo remained silent and frozen before replying yeah. He said slowly, almost possessed. A falling out. Inwards, he thought. Did he open his big fat mouth about our past thinking he can gain some sympathy from these extras, and paint me the bad guy for putting that weakling in his place? Bakugo raised his head, a sick feral smile on his face, and his eyes filled with pure, violent rage. I'm going to roast that damn nerd today. Meanwhile, outside, Deku, Uraraka, and Pikachu stood outside the building looking at the floor plans of the building. Wow. Uraraka said as she looked over the plans. You think they are expecting us to memorize all of this building's plans? Man, it's so big. It'll be a pain to find the weapon in there. Uraraka looked up, her mind in thought. You know, All Might is just as cool in person as he is on television. Man, I'm glad that he isn't threatening us with expulsion like Mr. Ozawa. Isn't that great? Uraraka stopped as she looked at Deku, his steeled eyes wavering in fear, mouth quivering, his hands gripping the plants tightly and shakily. Beads of sweat rolled down his face. Deku, are you okay? Uraraka asked, concerned. Izuku came to and said, oh, I'm sorry. It's just, we're up against Kabakugo. Eat it too. Oh right. Uraraka said, her chipper mood failing as she remembered the explosive teen's angry face and power. Hey, I don't mean to ask, it's none of my business, but why do you always seem you are about to call him something else, but switch to Bakugo afterwards? Pikachu sighed. I know she was going to bring that up. If that Minachick realized that with Momo, then it wasn't going to be long before someone asked about that. Izuku frowned sadly. Well, back when me and Bakugo were friends, I wasn't the only one who received a nickname. Well, he called me Deku, I always called him Koch-chan. It's a combination of his first name, Kodsuki, and Chan. It was what me and the other neighbor kids always were comfortable calling him when we were young. I guess that, I'm struggling against calling him that name, the name I use for my friend. You two must have been really close. Uraraka said. Yeah, close. Pikachu said bitterly. Close to your face with his hand. Izuku flinched at that. Yeah, we were. All my life, though he was amazing. He can be a real pain, no secret there, but his strength, his confidence and ambition, I always looked up to him for that. Not to mention his quirk, so powerful and versatile, it seemed he could do anything. He was my symbol of victory, someone who never gave up no matter what and always won. Someone who seemed so much better than me in every way. Uraraka stared at Izuku in silence, absorbing just how much the green-haired teen respected and admired the blonde. Pikachu stared at Izuku with a sad look, sad that his partner lost what must have been a really inspiring friend. Eevee listened in silence, remembering how he first met the blonde kid and his Cyndaquil, how they were the best of friends, and then he turned into such a jerk. Eevee always wondered where things could have gone so wrong. But Izuku said as he stood straight, eyes rillet in steel determination. That means I have to do better. Be better, if I'm going to escape his shadow and be the hero I want to be. He pulled his hooded mask over his eyes. I refuse to lose. Uraraka and Pikachu stared at their friends in awe before smiling, determined themselves. So, Uraraka said. It's a fated battle between rivals. Oh, I'm sorry. Izuku apologized. I'm not trying to get you wrapped up in my fight. It must have been a bore to hear all that, huh? You kidding? Uraraka questioned before placing on her helmet. That just makes me extra pumped and determined to win this too. Yeah, boss. Pikachu said. You may be more on your way to surpassing All Might than you know, because you sure are doing great in lifting people's spirits and getting them pumped. Izuku smiled at Pikachu. Suddenly, Izuku heard Eevee's voice in his head. Izuku, let me fight today. Ha. Izuku mentally communicated. Are you sure, Eevee? We both know that if there is any Pokemon that Koch-chan is going to use its Kolava, and you haven't won a fight against him. Neither have you with Bakugo. Eevee replied, surprising Izuku. If you are going to face the music and strike back against the past, then I have my own score to settle. Me and Kolava, we were friends before sure, but someone needs to knock him down a peg, and if it's going to be anyone, it's gotta be me. Izuku was silent as he thought over Eevee's words and came to a conclusion. Pikachu. Izuku said, as the electric mouse turned to him. I want you to head back to the others and wait there for the rest of the match. Uraraka and, most especially, Pikachu were shocked at the order. Huh. Pikachu said. Boss, I'm the strongest, most experienced Pokemon you got. The new girl isn't ready and Eevee and Kolava were. Pikachu. Izuku cut off Pikachu's argument, looking at him with determined eyes and a smile. I've got a plan. Trust me. Pikachu looked at his partner before sighing. Alright, fine. You call the shots, that's why you're the boss. Hey Eevee, kick that flame-spewing rat a lesson he'll never forget. You got it, Pikachu. Eevee replied. Izuku and Uraraka watched as the electric-type Pokemon run down the same path All Might and the others went. So, Uraraka said. You said you got a plan. Yeah, I do. Izuku said as his right fist clenched hard. But first, you Pokemon, do you have any with the move Gravity or Psychic? Uraraka looked puzzled. Yeah, Minnie, she knows both. But why do you ask? Izuku smiled. Meanwhile, at the same time, All Might and the rest of Class 1A stood in front of a large screen, glowing green with the symbol of UA High, as it showed camera footage of a few locations of the battle training area, one of which showed Bakugo and Iida in the room with the weapon and another the outside, showing Izuku, Uraraka, and Pikachu talking. Pay attention, kids. All Might said as he stood by a podium with a mic and papers placed onto it. Learn from your classmates. Think about what you would do. The group noticed at Izuku and Uraraka's screen, it showed Pikachu running off screen somewhere. Huh? What happened? Kirishima asked. Where did Mido Bros Pikachu run off to? Could it be some kind of strategy? Asui questioned. Moments later, All Might heard a ringing noise and noticed the comms device on him was beeping green. He quickly placed the device on his ear, pressed onto the device and spoke through the microphone. Yes, Midoriya, I read you loud and clear. What's going on? Where did you send Pikachu off to? The students watched silently as All Might hummed for a few moments before saying understood. Good luck. Hey All Might, what was that about? Kirishima asked. Were you talking with Mido bro? If you are referring to Midoriya, yes, I was communicating with one of these communication devices. All Might pointed at his ear to the device. I gave one to each of them so that I communicate with them and listen in on their plans and grade them accordingly. So, what was with Pikachu running off? Mina jumped in asking. Midoriya has decided to use a different Pokemon, his EV more specifically, for this exercise. All Might informed the class. Wait, can he do that? Kaminari asked. Yes, since the exercise hasn't started and his Pikachu has a habit of staying outside his Pokeball, Izuku can choose another Pokemon if he wishes. All Might revealed. But once the exercise starts, then he and the rest will be forced to only use that one Pokemon. Looks like the others are getting out their Pokemon. Kyoka pointed out. On the screen showing Bakugo and Iida, Bakugo called out his Kolava, the fire-type starter wearing the same kind of mask as Bakugo, and Iida called out a Lucario, the Aura Pokemon wearing a helmet similar to Iida's. Whoa, seriously? Sato questioned. Bakugo has a fire starter already evolved into his second stage, and Iida has a Lucario. Mina brought out her Pokédex, Generation 4 Johto female Pokédex, and pointed it at Kolava. TT spoke in a feminine robotic voice. Kolava, the volcano Pokemon, and the evolved form of Cyndaquil. This Pokemon is fully covered by non-flammable fur. It can withstand any kind of fire attack. Makes sense that Bakugo would have a Pokemon like that, Asui said. His explosions likely won't affect his Pokemon if it gets caught in the blast area, and if it has flash fire it will become even stronger. Todoroki brought out his own Pokédex too, Kayla's Pokédex, and aimed it at Lucario. It spoke out in a masculine robotic voice, saying Lucario, the Aura Pokemon, and the evolved form of Riolu. By catching the aura emanating from others, it can read their thoughts and movements. That will be a problem if Midoriya and Uraraka try to approach them with stealth. Kyoka said. That Lucario will likely spot them instantly and whatever plan they have. Don't read too much into Pokédex info. Kaminari said. I heard many of them were exaggerated or proven false. Faulty information aside, these Pokemon could determine this battle just as much as their quirks and skills. Shoji said. And it would appear that they have trained their Pokemons hard to reach the levels that they are. Tokoyami said. Indeed. Momo said. While Kolava evolves from Cyndaquil through normal leveling, Lucario evolves from Riolu during the day when it forms a strong friendship with its trainer. That would mean that Lucario has a lot of trust in its trainer and will follow his order without fail and with extreme efficiency. Izuku brought out his own Pokemon, Eevee, while Uraraka brought out her own Pokemon, a Minior. Ha! Sero said. They're going to fight a fully evolved and second evolution stage Pokemon with those two. Kaminari popped out his own Pokédex, Alola Pokédex, and aimed it at the Minior. Minior, the meteor Pokemon. Strong impacts can knock it out of its shell. This Pokemon was born from mutated nanoparticles. While its rock typing would work well on Bakugo's Kolava, it would be risky having it face Iida's Lucario with its steel typing. Todoroki pointed out, as he aimed his Pokédex as Izuku's Eevee. Eevee, the evolution Pokemon. Thanks to its unstable genetic makeup, this special Pokemon conceals many different possible evolutions. Unfortunately, Midoriya's Eevee isn't particularly useful against any of the villain team's Pokemon, and is especially weak towards Lucario. Asui said. Yeah, at least Pikachu would fare better, but I honestly don't know what Midoriya is planning. Kaminari said. Serena looked at the screen, clenched hand over heart. I know you can do this, Izu. Serena thought. Win and prove you aren't his punching bag anymore. My, have the battles already started? A voice from behind the group said. The group turned to face Principal Nezu and Shota Aizawa by the entrance, with Pikachu standing beside them. I hope we aren't too late to watch. Nezu asked again. Nezu sir, All Might questioned. What are you and Aizawa here? I'm here to watch my class perform their first battle training against each other. Aizawa said simply, as if it was the most simplest thing in the world. As for the rat, he said he wanted to drop in and watch. Also, we ran into Midoriya's Pikachu on his way over here. Pikachu on cue ran up to Serena who cuddled with the Hydro Quirk user. I do hope it is alright with you, All Might, that we witness this exercise. It shouldn't be any problem, right? Nezu asked, his eyes gleaming as if to say you have no other choice in the matter. Oh of course not sir. All Might stuttered much to the shock of the students at seeing the symbol of peace cower before UA's principal. In fact I was just about to start the exercise. Lovely. Nezu said simply. All Might turned to the screen and thought young Midoriya, in this class, you're just another student. I will grade you just like I would anyone else. Without playing favorites. He grabbed the mic and announced alright. Let's begin the indoor combat training. Team and Team D. Your time starts now. Back at the building, Izuku, with Eevee on his shoulder, and Uraraka climbed and jumped inside an open window. Uraraka's mini-or mini as she called it, floated on in after them. And just like that, we are in. Uraraka said. Careful, there are a lot of blind spots around here. Izuku warned her. The two quickly, yet carefully, made their throughout the maze of halls of the building, keeping a lookout for Bakugo, Iida, or any of his Pokemon. While I don't have full control over One for All, full calling lets me fight on par with the others, without hurting myself in a single attack, or accidentally killing someone. Izuku thought over. But this isn't going to be a match decided on by strength. Bakugo still clearly surpasses me on that front, and it's not going to be about speed. Iida has a speed on that too. If we are going to have a shot at winning this, we'll have to stick to the plan and adapt. Just as Izuku turned a corner, Eevee's ears perked up and the evolution Pokemon whispered incoming. Izuku quickly reacted and jumped, pushing Uraraka away as Bakugo popped out of a corner, and fired a point-blank explosion at them. As the smoke cleared, Bakugo clearly missed. The wall beside the explosion teen scorched and destroyed with the two heroes unscathed, the only casualty being his hoodie mask, with half of it gone. Uraraka, Eevee, are you two okay? Deku quickly asked as he got back up. Yeah, I'm fine. Uraraka said. Peachy. Eevee replied. What's the matter, Deku? Bakugo taunted. Afraid to fight back. Izuku simply smirked. I knew you would try to sneak up on us. Izuku said. It was like reading an open book. Bakugo gritted his teeth in anger. Well, did expect this, Kulava. Flamethrower. On cue, Kulava jumped out of the corner on the opposite end of the hall, and fired on the two heroes with a flamethrower. Before the flames could them, however, Eevee jumped in and cast a green bubble of energy around him, the flames shielding the Pokemon and others from the attack. Yeah, I'd expect that. Izuku said. You may be cocky and arrogant, but you are still smart. Over at the viewing room, Kirishima slammed his fists and angrily shouted, sneak attacks. Bakugo, what kind of man pulls off cheap tricks like that? It's a viable strategy. All Might said. He's acting the part, pretending to be a villain. I don't think he's pretending anything. Serena thought. Bakugo meanwhile rushed at Izuku saying, I want you so bad that they'll have to stop the fight, just close. Bakugo reared his right arm for another attack, only for Izuku to quickly dive in and grab Bakugo's right arm, stunning the ash blonde teen. Izuku quickly, then shifted his left foot back while pivoting his body to his left, as well before he started pulling. How did they do that? Bakugo thought in disbelief. He's not that good. A second later, Izuku shoulder tosses Bakugo onto the ground, the surprised explosion teen groaning in pain as he bounced at the force of the throw. Uraraka and the other students who were watching eyes widened in surprise and shock at the move. Whoa. Look at him go. Uraraka said. Woo. Is it getting hot in here? Mina mumbled as she fanned herself. That was so cool. Tor cheered. Serena and Momo smiled widely at Izuku's move. Kulava was momentarily stunned at what happened to his partner from Deku, before he growled in rage and rushed over to help him, only to get tackled by Eevee, who pushed the volcano Pokemon back. As Bakugo got back up, Izuku said, Bakugo, you always use a big right hook to start a fight. Bakugo momentarily froze. I know because I've watched you for years. All those times you threw a punch, used an explosion, I didn't just take it, I learned. I analyzed every amazing hero's moves and tactics, even you. I wrote it all down, including in the notebook you burned and threw away. Bakugo gritted his teeth in anger as he turned to look at his former punching bag, who met his gaze with one of pure determination. You may call me useless, call me Deku all you want. Izuku said, as held his fists up. But I'm not your punching bag anymore. You hear me, I've changed. Izuku's body and eyes sparked in green lightning. From now on, Deku is the name of a hero. Uraraka gasped as she remembered her words yesterday, and how much it must have meant to the green-haired teen. Bakugo got up and shook and shivered in rage. Deku. Bakugo growled. You talk big, but you are still shaking. True to his words, despite his words and confident stance, Deku's legs and arms still shook slightly. You are still afraid, yet you are fighting me anyway. That's why I hate you. Meanwhile at the viewing room, All Might, hearing every word of the two's declarations, didn't know whether to no smile so white his jaw broke or for once frown and growl in anger. I am proud of you, young Midoriya. All Might thought. Standing up to your fears with your head held high and ready. However, you, young Bakugo, your reasoning, I can understand. You are always so used to the weak standing down before the mighty, like you and Midoriya before. But now that he has grown so strong, you can understand and bear it, and instead you are drowning in your hatred. Those eyes, they aren't those of a hero in training or a hero angry over the harm of innocence. They're the eyes of a beast, a monster who has lost all control. No better than a villain. Aizawa and Nezu too heard through their own comms, and frowned at the friction between the two. Serena, while she couldn't hear, could see the anger and hatred in the blonde's eyes. Aizu. She though worryingly. Bakugo. Bakugo heard Iida's voice through his comms. Come in. Give me a status report. Lucario can't sense anything near you. Eevee's ears perked up as he heard. You are emitting too much negate. Just shut up and defend the weapon. Bakugo roared into his comms. and get the Pokemon of yours to get better. Hey, are you forgetting what our mission is supposed to? Bakugo hung up Iida's comms. Wait, so Bakugo is talking to Iida on his comms, right? Kirishima guessed. Doesn't look like Iida liked what Bakugo said. Kirishima pointed at the screen where Iida looked like he was venting. Indeed, All Might said. Young Bakugo turned off his comms. Clearly Bakugo is letting his emotions towards Midoriya cloud his judgment and is refusing to work cohesively with his partner. Momo deduced. Unwise, reckless even. Wait, is it the capture tape you told us about? Sero said, pointing to the screen showing Bakugo bring out a roll of tape. Correct, All Might said. Wrapping that around your opponent means you apprehended them, and they are out for the rest of the game, including their Pokemon. So there's a 15-minute countdown, and the heroes have no idea where the nuclear weapon is. Mina deduced. Then the heroes are at a clear disadvantage, a big one at that. Real pros have to outwit villains and criminals on a daily basis. All Might replied. It's unfair, but that's life. Even when the odds aren't in our favor, we persevere and fight. That's what heroes are all about. The student smiled in awe of the #1 pro's advice. All together now. We are heroes. Plus Ultra. We are heroes. Plus Ultra. Nezu chuckled at All Might inspiring the youths, while Aizawa sighed and rubbed his ears at the loud cheer. Back at the fight, Bakugo readied himself to launch towards Deku, which the green bee noticed. Uraraka. Go. Deku yelled, to which the girl immediately followed, running back down the hallway they came from with Minior in tow, leaving Deku and Eevee with Bakugo and Kulava. Bakugo shot towards Deku, using his explosions as a boost. Bakugo twisted his body and threw a roundhouse kick which Deku blocked with his arm. You think you can take me on yourself, Deku? Bakugo quickly realized that Deku was wrapping capture tape around his leg. Bakugo quickly counterattacked by unleashing another big blast at the nerd, only for said shitty nerd to dive away, leaving Bakugo growling further in rage. As Deku slid to a halt, he thought Hero Notebook number 10. Luckily I saw how Racer had moved in action yesterday. I knew Bakugo would attack with another big blast. Yet, he also attacked with a kick. Is he trying to mix up his moves so I won't predict? Izuku looked as Bakugo glared at him with hatred, his attention fully focused on him. Good, he's angry enough to have ignored Uraraka. I have to keep it that way. Keep his attention on me and Eevee. Meanwhile, Kulava's mouth filled with flames as it lunged using Fire Fang. Eevee stood his ground waiting before swiping his tail on the ground and flicking dirt onto Kulava with Sand Attack, blinding the Pokemon. Just like Halecha showed me. Eevee thought as the evolution Pokemon remembered his training with Halecha during Izuku's 10 months of training. Wait till your opponent is close and blind him. Eevee quickly jumped out of Kulava's way as the volcano Pokemon tried shaking the sand from his eyes. While he is blinded and distracted, look for a weak spot. Eevee landed on the wall beside them and spotted Kulava's backside. And struck. Eevee jumped towards Kulava's backside, curled his body, and slammed into his backside, the volcano Pokemon crying out in pain. Body slam. Eevee jumped behind the temporarily downed foe. That should have struck with a critical hit. Yes, he is paralyzed. As Eevee said, as Kulava tried standing, his body shook and shivered, having difficulty moving. As Kulava got back up with a shake, Eevee spoke out to his former friend of his own, saying, Izuku isn't the only one who has been training hard. I've been training as hard as I can to be the best partner I can be, to one day stand in the ring with you and hold my own. No, so that I may win against you. You've looked down on me for not evolving, saying that staying in a weaker form is wrong, but look at me now. Me up top, and you down in the dirt. Shut up, Kulava shouted back. You are just as annoying as your so-called trainer. Me and Katsuki will show you too that we are the superior fighters, and you too little more than useless runts. As both trainer and Pokemon both stood ready to launch themselves again, Deku shouted scatter. Deku, using full cowling, zipped away down a corridor, while Eevee took heed and fled down a different one using quick attack. I'll get back here, Deku. Bakugo shouted, running off towards Deku's direction, while Kulava followed Eevee. Bakugo would look towards where Deku went only to find no sign of him, the same with Kulava and Eevee. Just as Bakugo went down another hallway, he heard the sound of rapid footsteps behind him. Bakugo quickly dived behind him and blasted at the individual only for the smoke to clear to show that it was Kulava he almost struck. Shit. Bakugo cursed at his mistake. The two nodded their heads, knowing that the attack wasn't intended for him, and looked around for Izuku and Eevee. Finally having enough, Bakugo roared in anger. Damn it. You were tricking me for years, weren't you? Laughing behind my back as you had a quirk all along. Doesn't matter. Your quirk, no quirk compares to mine. Quirk or not, you'll never beat me, Deku. Izuku flinched as he heard but roared out, keep talking. That's really what you're only good at. Big talk. So come find me if you want to bite as much as you bark. Izuku heard Bakugo roar in fury and run towards his voice, but Izuku ran away from his position and continued running. So far, Bakugo and Kulava are splitting up to try to find Eevee and me. With full cowling and quick attack, me and Eevee can zip around through the building and keep Bakugo and Kulava's attention on us. Meanwhile, Uraraka goes to find the weapon and take care of Iida until we are both in position. Izuku's right hand twitched in anticipation. It's risky and it might not even work, but I can't lead Bakugo back towards Iida if I try to go with her and take down Iida together. So, I'll keep Bakugo angry and distracted, while Levi does the same with Kolava. Even if I don't like acting like him, I'll do it for the sake of the mission. By the way, Koch-chan, Izuku thought finally. There's one thing I truly want to say. What I said about not wanting to compete with you, I take it back. So bring it on. Meanwhile, with Bakugo, as he continued searching from room to room, hallway to hallway, while Kolava searched the opposite direction of him. Bakugo's mind flashed back to his childhood days, to every major interaction between him and Deku. Geez Izuku, you really can't do anything right, can you? Young Bakugo said as Izuku failed to keep a bull up like him. Deku, that must be the name of a hopeless, worthless failure. Young Bakugo said as he gave Deku his nickname. Why can't you do anything right? He said at Deku. Hey, did you hear? Izuku doesn't have a quirk. It's called being quirkless. So dumb. Young Bakugo heard the kids of preschool kids reveal about Deku. You're a total failure, Deku. Young Bakugo thought when he heard the news. Impressive. I bet that's going to grow into an amazing quirk. Definitely, a flashy quirk for a future hero. The two suck-up preschool teachers said. Yeah, they're right. I am amazing. In fact, I bet there's no one as great as I am. His younger self thought. Suddenly, Bakugo's memories took him back down that very fateful day. Flashback, Bakugo's POV. Wow, you're so lucky. Your quirk is amazing, Koch-chan. Deku praised him. When I get mine, I hope it's just as cool. Whatever, Deku. I scoffed and looked back. No matter what power you may end up with, you'll never be able to defeat me. Afterwards, Deku found that hidden path through the bushes that they took. Soon Bakugo, those three lackeys, and Deku marched through a large fallen log over a small stream. Forward, march, and here we go. Members of the agency Bakugo. His younger self chanted. Sound the awe. Then I fell into the stream. Koch-chan. Are you okay? Bendy Fingers cried out worried. Oh, don't worry. Tsubasa said. Koch-chan is super tough. See? I got out of the stream alright. I was just fine on my own, Deku. Hurry and get back up here. One of them said. Sure, just give me 1 second. I didn't need your stupid help. As I was getting up, Deku came up to me with his hand out to him and his face concerned. Are you alright? Are you hurt? I was worried you might have hit your head on something. My confident smile turned into a frown and then into a snarl as I slapped his hand away. But you looked at me like I was some kind of weakling. Like you. I remembered I tried to attack him, but then I felt something shove me in the back, and I fell into the stream again. I got up to see if it was Deku's stupid EV, but there was nothing there. Flashback over, but I'm not. Bakugo mentally screamed in his head like a mantra. I'm not weak like you. I'm so much better than you. With Uraraka, she and Minior turned a corner and quickly hid behind one of the pillars in the large room. She peeked out and whispered found it. She saw Iida pacing around while his Lucario was in a meditative stance. So, Deku was right. Iida does have a Lucario. It's still strange how he knew, though. Uraraka remembered as she and Deku went over their plan, how she strongly stood against it at first before Deku eased her. Flashback, are you sure this will work? She asked. Bakugo will chase after me, I'm sure. Deku said. Iida would be the smarter to send, but I know Bakugo will go after us himself. He's too energetic to stand around doing nothing. Plus, he'll come mostly just to attack me. We will use that to our advantage. I'll egg Bakugo on and rile up his anger, so that Iida's Lucario can't sense us. Lucario can sense people's aura and emotions and use them read their minds. But if Bakugo's become so riled up, his negative emotions will make it hard for Iida's Lucario to get a read on us. Wait, how do you know Iida is going to use a Lucario? She asked. Deku looked at her confused. Actually, how do you even know that Iida has a Lucario? We've never seen him reveal his own Pokemon before. Huh? What do you mean? Deku asked. It's obvious that he has a Lucario. Can't you feel it? She looked at him with confusion before Deku immediately did a double take and said, I mean, my quirk revolves around aura, so I can feel when a Pokemon that uses aura is around, right? Right? Uraraka agreed reluctantly, though to her it sounded less like an obvious statement, and more like he was questioning himself. Flashback, I can think about that later. Uraraka thought. Right now, I need to contact Deku and tell him where the bomb is in our position, and to hide long enough until he is in position. Yes, Uraraka was about contact Deku through her comms. Iida spoke out loudly. Bakugo definitely has a villainous side, one that I don't think he's doing intentionally for this mission, but that's exactly what we need to succeed, just as All Might said. I must devote myself temporarily to criminal intent. Yes. I will fail this trail and bring shame upon the Iida family name. That means I must now embrace evil to become a hero. Iida turned around and shouted out loud, behold. I am the personification of villainy. Wahahaha. Lucario, while still meditating, had a comical sweat drop roll down his head in embarrassment. Uraraka broke out into giggles at the Iida's role-playing. He's so serious. Uraraka mentally laughed out. Lucario's ears perked, his eyes flaring open at Uraraka's position. RRAWWR. He yelled at Iida, gaining the engine quirk user's attention, and pointing it at where Uraraka was, Iida noticing a glimpse of Uraraka's helmet. "Uraraka, is that you?" Iida yelled out in his dastardly villain voice. Uraraka flinched. "Shit. I gave myself away." Uraraka nervously stepped out of her hiding spot, her mini-ore floating beside her. "AHA. I knew you would come here the moment that Bakugo ran off by himself and engaged with Midoriya," Iida dramatically declared as Lucario got up. "Your quirk allows you to float any object that you touched. But I prepared for that." Iida dramatically waved his arms around the empty room, save for the weapon. "By removing every object in this room so you have nothing to use against me, do-gooder." Iida pointed at Uraraka. "My dastardly tricks have rendered you helpless. You blundered hero." "Mwahahaha. He really is playing the part," Uraraka muttered. Minior cried out and Lucario sighed in agreement. As Izuku hid from Bakugo, he suddenly heard Uraraka's voice through his headset. Deku. "Yeah, I'm here," Deku said. "Did you find the weapon?" "Yeah, I did, but Iida and his Lucario found me," Uraraka said. "Sorry. That's alright," Izuku said. "Where are you?" "Near the middle of the 5th floor," Uraraka revealed. Deku looked above him and said, "Right above me. Keep Iida busy and make sure to lure Lucario to the center and distracted." "You got it," Uraraka said as she shut her comms off. "Alright, Uraraka is in position," Izuku muttered. "Now I've got to get Bakugo and Kulava over here." "Found you, Deku." Izuku quickly dived away from his position, as Bakugo attempted to sneak attack him again from behind. Before Izuku could get out of Bakugo's range, Bakugo grabbed onto Deku's leg and tossed him away. Izuku encompassed himself and pivoted his body in midair to land in a slide. "Well, that was easier than expected," Izuku thought. "I finally found you, Deku," Bakugo repeated, a maniac grin on his face. "Now, what was it as you said?" "Oh right, show you my bite is as big as my bark." Bakugo launched towards Deku using his explosions to propel him forward. Deku steeled himself and stood ready. One for all. Full cowling. 5%. He mentally roared as he sped towards Bakugo to face him head-on. Bakugo brought his right arm back, before immediately switching to his left arm, and attempted to blast Deku once again. Deku quickly slid and tried wrapping his capture tape on Bakugo's leg. Bakugo reacted quickly, firing an explosion at Izuku that the green-haired teen rolled away from. Bakugo propelled backwards by his explosion, twisted his body in midair, and fired an explosion to send him back towards Deku, only for Deku to land on his hands from his roll and shoot himself forward, smashing into Bakugo's solar plexus with his feet. Bakugo spat up some spit at the impact and crashed into the wall next behind him, before quickly recovering and blasted himself forward and firing a point-blank explosion at Deku, who barely managed to block with his arms crossed. Deku was blasted back to the wall behind him, and quickly rolled away from Bakugo's second explosion. The remaining part of Deku's mask burnt away. Deku quickly launched towards Bakugo and fired a powerful punch at Bakugo, who blocked with his own crossed arms, the explosive teen flinching at the strength behind it. That definitely bruised one of his arms. Bakugo growled in anger because of this, and launched a kick at Izuku's side, causing the teen to gasp in pain, with Bakugo quickly following, by tossing Izuku down the hall to Bakugo's right with an explosion, causing the successor of All Might to crash into the wall. Deku groaned before getting back up at the slowly approaching Bakugo, before he heard movement and heat to his right, and sidestepped in time before Kulava could slam into him with a flame wheel. At the viewing room, the students watch in awe of Izuku's fight with Bakugo and Izuku, managing to evade both Bakugo and his Kulava. "Damn, Midoriya is really holding his own against Bakugo and Kulava," Kirishima said. "He's so manly." "No?" Serena said, drawing the group's attention. "He may look like he's holding his own, but Izu's clearly on the defensive. He may be fast and strong, but against two opponents at once, he is barely keeping up." The group turned back to see that she was indeed right. They saw that Deku was clearly not trying to attack Bakugo or Kulava anymore, and was purely evading the two. They saw Deku jumping onto the roof and springing downwards to evade Bakugo's explosion, only to get tackled by Kulava using quick attack. The girl is right, All Might thought. At 5% of one for all, Midoriya may be faster and stronger than an ordinary human, but Bakugo's speed using his explosions and Kulava's own speed make it extremely difficult for him to counterattack. Nezu stared at the fight when he noticed Izuku managing to toss Bakugo onto the roof above them. The principal of UA smiled. Over with Uraraka, she and Minior stood against Iida and his Lucario, with the speedsters still monologuing. "As you can see here, without any objects around for you to use, your quirk is useless," Iida yelled out. Uraraka smirked. "I wouldn't be too sure about that, Iida." Before Iida could respond, Uraraka yelled out, "Mini use rock slide." The meteor Pokemon complied, glowing purple in energy, before glowing purple rocks suddenly materialized above Iida and Lucario. Iida reacted quickly, speeding away from the falling debris while ordering Lucario, Bone Rush to destroy those rocks. Lucario created a long, thin staff that looked like a bone at the ends made of glowing blue energy. The ore Pokemon jumped around the falling rocks and would strike at those near him. Uraraka quickly reacted, touching any fallen rocks and the destroyed remnants of the rest, making all of them float in midair. Normally, Mini would have trouble levitating a lot of objects at once, but since they don't weigh a thing, it makes it all the more easier. Uraraka though before yelling Mini, psychic on the rocks. Keep them off me. The nicknamed Mini-ore glowed purple again, telekinetically lifting and moving the floating rocks. It levitated the rocks and sped them around Uraraka like she had her own orbit of meteors. Special move. Uraraka yelled. Orbit shield. Smart. Aizawa complimented. Using the floating objects that her Mini-ore created to make it easier for her Pokemon to move and protect her with it. However, Iida was taken aback by the move before noticing that she was heading towards the weapon. Quickly he rushed towards her, but jumped back, avoiding the boulder that nearly collided on him. Noticing the purple halos around the rocks, Iida quickly reacted. Lucario. Rush at Uraraka's Mini-ore. Keep it busy. Lucario complied, zooming over to the meteor Pokemon with his Bone Rush attack and swing. Mini-ore quickly reacted, floating away from the attacks from the ore Pokemon. A Bone Rush is a ground-type move. Uraraka thought confused. Why would Iida have Lucario attack a flying type with an earth-type move? Uraraka received her answer as the rocks around her lost their momentum and floated slowly around her. Uraraka eyes widened, barely looking to her front as Iida charged in and slammed into Uraraka. Wait, what just happened? Toru asked. Iida knew that to attack Uraraka head-on with her shield would be useless and waste time as she drew closer to the weapon. Momo began explaining. So instead of breaking through her defenses manually, he instead had Lucario focus on the source of her shield's effectiveness. Uraraka's Mini-ore. And at the heat of the moment, they didn't need Mini-ore to be attacked to break its concentration with Psychic, only distracted. As such, Uraraka's shield lost its effectiveness, giving Iida an opportunity to push Uraraka away. Excellent deduction, young Yaoi Rozo. All Might said. Man, she stole the words out of mouth before I could speak. Uraraka tumbled back towards Mini, getting up with a groan, as Iida and Lucario rejoined in front of the weapon. A valiant attempt, hero, but you'll have to be quicker than that if you want to get your hands on this weapon. Iida monologued. Gritting her teeth in frustration, Uraraka looked at the timer on the bomb. 5:45. Damn it. Uraraka cursed in her head. I have to find another way to get to the bomb quickly. If not, then we'll have to go with the plan. But how? Before they could continue, a huge thundering boom sounded, the building shaking as a result, causing the two students and their Pokemon to stumble. What's happening? Iida yelled. An earthquake and explosion. Uraraka's eyes widened in fear. Deku. She whispered out. Over with Izuku, he slid to a stop, panting. I've got to hurry. Izuku mentally chastised himself. If I waste any more time, time will run out, and we'll lose. I'm all loaded up. Bakugo muttered as he stood at the opposite end of the hall with Kolava by his side. What are you waiting for, Deku? Don't tell me that's all that you got. Or were you holding back? Where was the strength you used during that ball throw yesterday, huh? Izuku gritted his teeth in frustration. Come on, Uraraka. Izuku thought. Just stick to the plan and give me the signal. Bakugo gritted his teeth at the lack of a response. Are you ignoring me, Deku? He yelled out, snapping the green-suited teen out of his thoughts. Fine then. I'll give you something to notice me. Since you're such a stalker, then you know how my quirk, explosion, works. Bakugo pointed his right gauntlet at Deku. I secret nitroglycerin like sweat from my hands and make it blow up. Imagine what I could do if I had a lot of it. Izuku's eyes, along with All Might's and Eraserhead's whilst overhearing, widened in horror and alarm. Even Kolava stared at his partner in surprise. Katsuki. Wait, hold up. The Pokemon tried yelling to his partner, who paid his Pokemon no heed. Bakugo pulled back the metal mechanism connected to his gauntlets, revealing a metal pin. That's right. Bakugo said, his eyes widening in maniacal glee as he placed his finger on the pin. These gauntlets aren't just for show. They have been storing up my sweat for one monster blast to wipe you off the face of the earth. No? He's going too far. All Might mentally exclaimed. Young Bakugo. Stop this at once. You'll kill him. Aizawa was just about to run out the door before Bakugo exclaimed, he'll be fine as long he dodges. Bakugo pulled the pin, a massive burst of fire and light shooting outward, and heading straight towards the frozen Izuku. Mega Blast Burn. Move. Izuku mentally told his body as it didn't respond. Why can't I move? Young Midoriya. Get out of there. All Might yelled. Izuku. Serena yelled in horror. Is he really trying to kill me? Izuku mentally choked out. Just as the blast neared Izuku, EV jumped out of the hall to Izuku's left. EV. Izuku yelled in shock. Protect. EV screamed out as he erected a large green bubble around the two, as the explosion engulfed them. The explosion blasted through the building, a large plume of smoke and fire bursting outward. The students and teachers at the viewing room stumbled at the rumbling from the explosion. Izuku. Momo, Serena, Mina, and Tori screamed in horror. Boss. Kakachu cried out. This is crazy. Kaminari yelled out. Come in. All Might yelled into the comms in panic. Come in, young Midoriya. Enough with this. Aizawa yelled as he settled the principal to the ground as he ran out the door. Shut the match down. Now. As the smoke cleared, the once dark maze of halls was destroyed, the remaining floor brightly lit and open as rubble was everywhere. Izuku got up groggily, looking to his right to see a large scorched trail where he and Evie stood. That was too close. Izuku muttered as he recalled what happened at the last minute. He remembered how Evie's protect was shielding them from the blast, but Izuku quickly noticed that cracks were forming in the bubble. Izuku remembered how he picked Evie up and dived to his left just as the explosion broke through the shield. A second too late, and I would have been toast. Izuku heard coughing. Evie. Izuku yelled as he quickly turned his attention to his partner. The brown Pokemon had a few scorch marks on the end of his tail, and his fur looked dirtied and scratched, but he looked mostly in one piece. Are you okay? Yeah. Evie coughed as he got up. I'm alright. What about you, Izuku, are you hurt? No, I'm okay. Izuku reassured the evolution Pokemon. Izuku's suit was scratched and dirtied, his back was slightly singed black, but Izuku's back didn't sting too much. Hahaha. Izuku heard maniacal laughter that sent a shiver down his and Evie's spines. They turned to see Bakugo and Kulava walking out of the smoke and rubble, their eyes practically glowing red like demons. These are awesome. Bakugo yelled out in glee. The more nitro sweat stored in these babies, the stronger the explosion. Go on and fight all you want, Deku. Izuku's eyes whitened in fear and anger, as Bakugo stalked towards him like a monster. In the end, you'll never beat me. Over with the viewing party, the students and teachers sighed in relief. Oh, thank Arceus. Momo swore in relief, hand over her heart. He's alright. All Might, sir, you gotta do what Mr. Aizawa says. Kirishima urged the symbol of peace. That Bakugo guy is going too far. He's going to kill him. All Might nodded, but before he spoke a word, hold on a moment, All Might. The group turned to see that it came from Principal Nezu. Sir, All Might questioned. What do you mean? The two received a beep in their earpieces to hear Aizawa's voice call out, Nezu, All Might, shut the exercise down now. That wouldn't be necessary, Eraserhead. Nezu replied. What? Aizawa yelled in shock. I say that we continue with the exercise. Nezu said. What? The group yelled out in pure shock. But sir, I am aware of the dangers, All Might, but for my own reasons, we shall allow this fight to continue. Nezu said. This use of lethal force against a fellow student will not go unpunished or overlooked, but for now we shall continue with the training. As a compromise, warn the boy that if he uses those gauntlets once more, the exercise will be shut down, and the opposing team will win by default. Do I make myself clear? All Might wished nothing more than to argue and shut the exercise at once, but the look in Nezu's eyes practically screamed that it wasn't a question but a demand. All Might sighed in painful reluctance and nodded before turning to the screen and Mick. The students uneased at the order from the principal. Pikachu wished nothing more than attack the Pokemon-looking principal, but was held off by Serena, who looked conflicted. I want to stop this madness so bad and go down there and help him, Serena thought. But I can't go against the principal's orders. Plus, this fight is Izuku's fight, he has to settle this himself. Please be alright, Aizu. Come in, Bakugo. Iida yelled through his comms. Was it you that caused that explosion? Answer, goddammit. Uraraka shook off her worry and looked at the weapon. No time to lose. Uraraka thought. I have to trust that Deku's alright. I have to go and get the weapon. If I get it, that means we win, and I can go see if Deku is alright quicker. Uraraka rushed forward. Iida noticed and ran towards Uraraka with Lucario in tow. Not so fast, hero. He yelled in his renewed villain voice. Mini. Use Rock Tomb. Uraraka called out. Mini responded by glowing white before creating and firing whitish-blue rocks. They collided at Iida and Lucario's path, around the middle of the room, the rocks sprouting out and enlarging as large boulders that blocked their path. Iida gritted his teeth before firing up his engines. He yelled, Lucario. Breakthrough. Power-up punch. Lucario's fists glowed orange with a red glow. Iida and Lucario jumped towards the rock, Iida swinging his left leg in an engine-powered kick, and Lucario with power-up punch. They struck the boulders and smashed through to rush at Uraraka, only for Uraraka to be above them, flying past them. Just one touch of the weapon, and this will all be over. Uraraka thought as she sailed through the air. Since when can she make herself float? Iida questioned. Mini. Give me a boost. Uraraka called. Mini shot towards Uraraka, pushing Uraraka through her back and speeding her way to the weapon. Oh no. Iida yelled out. Lucario. Shadow Ball at Minior. Iida sped his way towards the weapon as Lucario built up an orb of sinister purple energy and fired it at the Pokemon. The meteor Pokemon noticed the incoming attack and dodged out of the way, the attack sailing past it, while Uraraka continued flying towards the weapon. Close to the weapon, Uraraka tapped her finger pads together and yelled release. Uraraka began to fall downwards towards the weapon. Almost there. But just before she reached it, Iida appeared and sped away with the weapon, Uraraka flying to the ground before tumbling towards the wall in a groan, her helmet falling out. Ow. Uraraka groaned. What? Minior cried as it flew towards her worried. Ugh, I'm alright, Mini. Uraraka eased her Pokemon. Mwahahaha. Iida laughed villainously. Nice try, hero. Well, I admire your attempt, ultimately it was no good. I can easily keep this weapon out of your reach until time runs out. The timer on the weapon was now at 3 minutes and counting. Uraraka got up and wiped her cheek. It's not over yet. I won't let you down, Deku. What's the matter? Bakugo taunted. Are you scared? Get up and fight back, Deku, so I can put you down for good. Izuku growled in frustration. Those gauntlets allow him to fight at long range too, and Kulava's long range attack will be even more difficult for me and Eevee to dodge. So what do I do? Come on Izuku, think. Uraraka. Izuku said to his comms. What's the situation, Deku? Uraraka cried out. Thank Arceus, you're alright. It's not looking good. Iida is keeping the weapon away with his super speed, and his Lucario is keeping me and Mini away with his long range attacks. Bakugo's eyes twitched. You're ignoring me again, I'll get your attention. Another blast should put you in that run to ashes. Bakugo. The explosive team heard All Might's voice through the comms. Use that stored up power again and I'll end the match. Your team will lose. What? Bakugo cried out in anger. I warned you that deadly force would not be permitted. All Might repeated himself. Not only is such an attack a poor strategy in defending the weapon you should be protecting, but a violation of my warning. Use it again and I'll fail you and your team and grant the victory to the heroes. Bakugo gritted his teeth so hard that Kulava thought that they were going to shatter. Bakugo finally roared in anger and frustration. Let's get him into the center. Izuku continued speaking to Uraraka. Signal me when fine then. Izuku was cut off by a furious Bakugo as he raced towards him with Kulava in tow. We'll fight hand to hand. Kulava finished that pest. Eevee. You know what to do. Go. Izuku ordered, Eevee nodding before jumping away to fight the volcano Pokemon. Izuku activated full cowling and drew his feet back in a stance, only for the ground beneath him to crack and shatter, causing Izuku to stumble. Bakugo noticed and shot towards Deku quickly. Shit. No good. Izuku cursed. I'll have to counterattack quickly. Izuku readied his fist and threw a punch towards the incoming explosive team. Bakugo fired an explosion in front of him, blinding Izuku in smoke while vaulting over in mid-air using his explosion, till he was behind Deku. He fired an explosion from his right hand to blast himself towards Deku, before firing an explosion from his left hand onto Deku's back, the green teen shouting in pain. Whoa, what was that? Mina cried out in question. He doesn't come off as forward-thinking or a guy with a plan, but he is actually rather intelligent. Todoroki said. What do you mean? Kirishima asked. He used that first explosion as to vault himself over and change his trajectory while in mid-air, whilst blinding Midoriya with the explosion smoke. Todoroki explained. He changed his trajectory to get behind Midoriya, used that second explosion to launch him closer to him, and use a final one to attack at his unguarded back. Well, I hate to admit it, Todoroki's right. Momo said. To perform that maneuver and feint attack, he would have to have an extreme amount of precision, calculating the physics and show great control over his quirk. He may be aggressive and violent, but he is talented. Kulava chased after Eevee firing flamethrowers and embers at him, while Eevee dodges and obscured his vision with sand attack. Kulava flinched as the paralysis kicked in. Eevee saw this and attacked, his tail glowing white, and he slashed and fired swift at him. Kulava shook it off and quickly counterattacked by firing ember, the fiery bolts of sparks colliding and destroying the stars in a burst of smoke. Kulava quickly jumped towards Eevee with quick attack, slamming onto the mid-air Pokemon, and used Bite on him, Eevee crying out in pain as it tossed him over to the ground, the evolution Pokemon tumbling before getting up groggily. Eevee only had a second of rest before jumping out of the way of Kulava, and continuing to run from him. Meanwhile, Uraraka rushed to Iida while calling out to her Mini, ancient power. Mini glowed purple as it manifested large rocks with fossils and glowing purple, before firing it on Lucario. Lucario, Metal Claw to destroy them, then strike back with Force Palm. Iida said as he sped away from an incoming Uraraka. Lucario took head, his paws erecting glowing white claws and slashing away at the rocks while rushing towards Minior. Lucario suddenly vanished from sight, Mini looking around in confusion only for Lucario to appear behind it and place its open palm on its back. The palm glowed in fiery blue aura before blasting forth an explosion of blue flames that blasted the meteor Pokemon forwards. Mini slowed before coming to a stop mid-air, its rocky shell cracking as it stood by a frustrated Uraraka. Here it comes, nerd. Bakugo yelled as he rushed forward. That famous right heck you were talking about. Bakugo struck Deku's side with his arm through the hard gauntlet, stunning Izuku before grabbing him and spinning around, using his explosion as a boost. Deku. Don't you ever forget what you are. A weakling for me to squash. Bakugo slammed Deku into the floor hard, Deku crying out in pain. This is hard to watch. Tori said as she covered her eyes. Yeah, all he has to do is capture him, not kill him. Mina yelled. Serena's hands were so tightly gripped that they were turning white, her normally sweet kind eyes flaring in hatred towards the explosive teen like never before. Pikachu growled in anger, his cheeks sparking in electricity. Come on boss. Fight back. Izuku was blasted back by another explosion and struggled to get back up. He's not giving me any time to think or fight back. Maybe I can't really beat him. He's just too strong. Like always. His mind flashed back to all the times in their childhood that Bakugo bested him at everything. Sports, friends, Pokemon battles, everything. Why? Why is this world so unfair and cruel? Can I really do anything right? Suddenly, he heard Pikachu's voice in his head. Come on, boss. Fight back. Stop with this self-loathing and complaining bullshit. Me and the girls are rooting for you. So get up and fight back. Izuku froze. You're right. Izuku thought back. What am I doing? Complaining now? Life is full of unfairness. It's a hero's job to try and combat that unfairness. Mr. Aizawa was right. It's not a hero's job to whine and give in. Izuku thought as his hand gripped the floor. It's to get back up and fight. You are truly talented and worthy to be here. Momo said. And we are honored to be your friends. Screw them. Serena said. You never gave up on your dream and goal, and you are here, where you belong. Momo, Uraraka, Toru, Mina, Serena, all might are rooting for me. Izuku groggily lifted himself up. I can't let them down. Screw the haters that say you are useless. Pikachu said. You aren't. We got your back and you ours. That's all that matters. My thoughts exactly. Eevee said. Izuku looked up to see Eevee still fighting against Kulava, peering over to me, his eyes saying all the word he needed to hear. Get up. That is where you belong, Deku. Bakugo roared out. A worthless bug for me to squash and a useless waste of SP. Shut the hell up. Izuku roared out as his body sparked in green lightning and rushed towards Bakugo. Bakugo gritted his teeth in rage before rushing in himself. You asked for it. Bakugo brought his hand back to fire a final explosion. Just as Izuku was in front of him, Bakugo fired point blank at Izuku, covering the teen's body in smoke. Just as Bakugo smiled in victory, Izuku rushed from below the explosion, ducking from the attack gripped onto Bakugo, his left arm around his waist, and his right over Bakugo's left neckline. Notebook 13, page 30. All Might's matchup. Bakugo's eyes whitened. Against a stronger opponent, wait until the opponent strikes with a jab and then duck at the last second, grabbing him in a lock. Izuku's eyes flared with lightning. And slammed down. Izuku slammed Bakugo down into the ground hard. The students gasped in shock at the maneuver. The girls and Pikachu's eyes brightened and smiled at Izuku fighting back. All Might smiled wide. Bakugo regained his composure and struggled to get free. Izuku countered by rolling and tossing Bakugo off of him with a kick. The explosive teen rolled before skidding to a stop, but just before he could rush back, Izuku was on him and slammed a full cowling fist to his face that knocked him back. Alright. Mina cheered. Midori's fighting back. Not that's the stuff. Kirishima yelled. I got to get him to teach me that move. That was so manly. Yeah, me too. Mess him up, boss. Pikachu cheered. Bakugo crashed into the newly wrecked wall behind him before dodging out of another punch from Deku, this one going straight through the wall. Bakugo looked into Deku's eyes that glowed green with strength and anger. Bakugo found his heart stirring with the emotion that he always had towards Deku when he said he would be a hero. Fear. Bakugo growled in anger as he beat down the emotion and rushed towards Deku, the green teen dodging as he removed his hand from the wall. Bakugo gave chase to Izuku as he bounced from wall to roof to floor like an electrified bunary. Deku jumped from the left wall of the room to the left of the middle of the room, where Izuku felt a large thin plate of the floor bend, catching Izuku's attention. He quickly brought his attention back to Bakugo and jumped upwards to avoid an explosion. Bakugo blasted upwards and fired another explosion only for Deku to quickly jump down from the roof, the unstable roof cracking slightly. Eevee, invigorated by his trainer's counterattack, struck back firing another wave of swift. Kulava responded once again by firing Ember, destroying the stars, but was suddenly slammed into by Eevee using quick attack. Kulava was pushed back and tried to counterattack, but flinched in paralysis. Eevee hammered onto the volcano Pokemon with another swift, this time the stars pelting the paralyzed Pokemon, it flinching as it was struck. Kulava broke free of his paralysis and fired a flamethrower at Eevee, the evolution Pokemon shielding itself with Protect. As the fire dissipated, Eevee quickly struck back, his body glowing slightly white as it slammed into Kulava. Takedown. Kulava cried out in pain as it was pushed back, with Eevee flinching at the recoil damage. Eevee looked at Izuku, who peered at him with a determined expression. Izuku suddenly held a tiny rock in his hand and tossed it over to his left. Eevee followed where the rock landed and his eyes lit up in realization. Atop with Uraraka and Iida once again sped away from Uraraka, yelling to Lucario. Knock it away with Brick. Meet it with Zen Headbutt. Uraraka cried out. The two Pokemon clashed, one with glowing white fist, while the other smashed head-on with its front glowing violet-purple. The two pushed back hard, but Lucario, having the greater attack strength, pushed the meteor Pokemon back, its shell finally breaking apart, revealing its pink core form. Are you okay, Minnie? Uraraka asked her Pokemon, who replied with a nod. Uraraka looked back at Lucario to where she realized where he was standing. The remains of Rock Tomb. At the center of the room. Izuku slammed his knee into Bakugo's gut, the ash-blonde teen coughing in pain before growling, grabbing Izuku's leg, and flinging him away to the other end of the room. Deku got up, panting, as he suddenly heard Uraraka through the comms. Deku, Lucario is in the center. Alright, keep him there and stay where you are for when I give the signal. Deku whispered back. Got it. Uraraka replied. Mini. Fire onto Lucario with Rock Tomb. The meteor Pokemon complied by unleashing a barrage of Rock Tombs. Iida noticed the greater amount in power. Of course. Iida mentally mused. Meteors have the ability Shield Down, where they become more aggressive and stronger in attacking when their outer shell is destroyed. I got to keep them there until time runs out. Lucario. Break them down with Bullet Punch. Lucario roared as his fists became covered in metallic shine, as he unleashed his own barrage of super-fast metal punches, breaking down the rock tombs as they connected. Back with Izuku and Bakugo, Bakugo stalked towards Deku yelling, "You've had a quirk. This entire time, you've had a quirk. Would you hide it?" Izuku was silent, which made Bakugo growl in rage. "Late bloomer my ass, you've been hiding it this whole time. Laughing behind my back for years. Thinking you were better than me the entire time." Izuku's eyes widened, memories of the past flashing in his mind. "That's what you though?" Izuku asked. You idiot. I was never lying, nor did I ever saw you as weak. You were always better than me, Bakugo. And that's why." Deku's body started sparking again with full cowling. "I wanted to beat you because you were amazing. You're an even bigger idiot than I thought, if you ever thought that would ever happen." Bakugo roared back, his palms alight and sparking. "So come at me." Kulava and Eevee faced each other panting, Eevee right behind where Bakugo and Deku were. "Why?" Kulava groaned. "Why would you just stay down?" "Because Izuku is counting on me," Eevee said. "And I won't let him down." At the same time the four charged at each other, as time seemed to slow. Meanwhile, the students watching were begging at All Might and Nezu to end the fight, claiming that they were going to kill each other. All Might gripped the pedestal and continued to watch. I think I now see why you wanted this match to continue, Nezu." All Might thought as he peered at the principal of UA. He stared at the screen with a neutral expression. The only time he ever talk like that, when he acts like that, is when he is focused only on being a hero no matter the cost. Izuku roared as he charged, cocking his right arm, green lightning sparking wildly as his veins glowed red in power. Bakugo too roared, his own right arm smoking in bright hot red for an explosion. Kulava raced towards Eevee, jumping before flipping into a roll, the fire of on his head and tail growing, as it charged with Flame Wheel. Eevee meanwhile charged too. He is facing all the pain and torment throughout his ears in this fight. All Might continued to strike back against the past and the jeers. "You wanted to have him let go of the past, so as to move forward, didn't you, Nezu?" But still, the four roared as they were about to clash. "Sir, please," Serena yelled in desperation. All Might gritted his teeth before he grabbed the mic and yelled, "Both of you stop this now." "Uraraka now," Izuku yelled. All Might was taken back and looked at the screen with Uraraka and Iida. "Got it," Uraraka said as she hugged the pillar next to her, confusing Iida and Lucario. "I'm not ready," Izuku thought. "I'm not strong enough to fight you one-on-one yet. But that doesn't mean that I won't win. Now?" Eevee yelled as he slammed his tail on the loose plate. Kulava, who was at the other end, catapulted into the air, right above Deku and Bakugo. Detroit, smash. Deku screamed as he was blasted by Bakugo's explosion, and he struck too. Just not at Bakugo, but the air next to him. Bakugo gasped in realization as a burst of powerful air pressure blasted through the root and the rest of the building floor by floor, Kulava with it. Kulava, still rolling uncontrollably with Flame Wheel, crashed through floor after floor, rubble after rubble, until it collided with something that put a stop in its tracks. Lucario. Kulava slammed into the shock Lucario's stomach, just below his chest spike, the Ore Pokemon roaring in pain at the super effective and critical hit. Iida, who held on to dear life on the weapon, looked agape in shock at the side of the middle of the room destroyed, a gale of wind pressure shooting up, and Lucario slammed into by Bakugo's Kulava. "What's happening?" he screamed. Uraraka, clutching onto a broken, weightless pillar, screamed Mini now. Gravity on Lucario and Kulava. Mini cried out as it glowed bright pinkish purple, the same glow appearing on the two Pokemon, as they suddenly shot down the newly made hole like a bullet. "Lucario!" Iida yelled out. "This is it." "Sorry, Iida." Uraraka shouted out. Improvised special move. Comet Home Run. Uraraka swiped the pillar onto the weightless rubble and rocks that were flung straight towards Iida. "In the name of villainy, I demand that you stop this." Iida screamed as he was pelted by rocks and debris. But as he was pelted, he was unaware of Uraraka, weightless and glowing pinkish purple through Mini's psychic pushing her, flying past him. "And release." Uraraka yelled as she clasped her finger pads together. She floated down and landed onto the weapon. "I got it." The weapon's timer stopped at 0:01. "No? The weapon." Iida yelled in horror. Bakugo looked agape at Izuku, his right arm purple, while the other burnt and bruised. Izuku looked straight at him, eyes alight in green lightning, and Bakugo swore for just a millisecond, a flash of blue. Deku quickly stepped back, spun on his heel and spun around, All Might gaping as for a moment he saw Cinderace in Izuku's place. I will win. And I will beat you. Izuku mentally roared, his right leg stuck out in the light in green lightning and a slight halo of blue. Just as Lucario and Kolava, falling fast, reached them, Izuku swung his leg in a roundhouse kick. 6% full calling. Washington, smash. Deku's leg struck Lucario and Kolava, sending them flying towards the stunned Bakugo, and all three crashing into the wall behind them. Deku panted hard, slouched as his injured and broken arms hanged limp by his side, barely able to stand as his right leg was likely sprained. Deku looked towards Bakugo, where he and the two Pokemon laid limp, all three in the rubble of the wall, unconscious. Izuku looked towards a tired Eevee to his left. Izuku smiled wide and slowly, but surely, raised his left arm, fist clenched, up high in victory. The students' mouths were agape in shock and awe, barely believing what they had just seen. Serena, Momo, Mina, and Tori smiled wide and bright, blushes on their faces. Pikachu was jumping and sticking his arms up in cheer. Nezu smiled wide and knowingly. All Might smiled wide, his eyebrows raised high. You did it. All Might whispered in awe and pride. Izuku fell down. The last thing he would hear before he fell into unconsciousness himself was 4 words. The hero team wins. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.